Hello and welcome to another painting video. In this video I'm going to show you guys how I paint my French infantry for the 100 Years' War. I started a 100 Years' War project where the French was going to fight the English army at Agincourt, of course, and these miniatures you can see here in front of you are the ones that I painted up. And today's video is going to be the infantry here on the far right. The miniature is spray painted first with the Citadel Wraith Bone as a base color. And then I painted up the miniature's skin tone using the contrast paints Gulliman Flesh or Dark Oat Flesh. Any speed paint could do just to speed up everything. I'm going to use the AK Interactive Smoke Black to start painting this French infantry's jupon, or the padded armor. I think he has the jupon over the padded armor. So I'm gonna try to paint a little pattern here. The pattern that I'm painting for this miniature is just a random pattern that came to my mind when I was painting this miniature. But I hope the French nobles will approve. I'm using a medium-sized brush here just to speed everything up, and there's not much of small details here at the moment. Panzer Ace Periscope is the color I'm going to use to paint up the other side of the jupon on the French infantry here. I'm trying to be as careful as I can when I'm trying to paint the other side of the jupon, so I don't get colors on the side that I already painted up. I've chosen this blue color because I really like this blue color, and it feels like this blue color would suit my French little army for the Battle of Agincourt. Time to paint the belt around his waist. It's going to be leather brown. And I'm still using this medium brush here because I think it will speed up, but any brush will do fine. And then I'm painting the dagger also in leather brown. And for his boots, his foot wearing, his shoes, I'm going to use chocolate brown. And also using the medium big brush to just get the paint quickly down on the miniature. I would also suggest that you could, instead of using chocolate brown, use one of these contrast paints or speed paints that are brown or black or gray, or any kind of color that will suit his boots. If historical correct, he will get bogged down in the mud and pelted with arrows, so maybe don't spend too much time on the boots. And now I'm going back to Smoke Black to paint his pants that are shown underneath the jupon, and yeah, you can see between the jupon and the boots, using my medium brush for this. Army Painter Gunmetal is the color I choose for the armor, and painting the armor will bring this miniature to life. I'm using the medium brush again, and I'm starting to paint the helmet, and then work my way to the other parts on the miniature. And then it's time to paint the dagger. And then the sword. Be careful to not use too much of the metallic paint. Don't splash the paint all over the figure. It's very easy to just get out of hand with those metal paints. And then I paint the shield. Will this be the lucky shield that will block 1 or 2 arrows from the English longbowmen? I tell you this shield is blessed by the French Holy Church, so there will be some magic dice rolls on this one. Beige brown for the stitch, the thread that is holding the jupon together. I'm trying to be very careful here so I don't get brown color on the gray and blue that I already painted. So moving slowly forward with the brush. And now it's time to apply some Agrax Earthshade on the thread that I just painted. Be careful so you don't get Agrax Earthshade on the other parts of the figure, the blue and the grey. And then I put some Agrax Earthshade on the belt around his waist and also on the dagger. And then I apply Agrax Earthshade on the boots too. Be careful so you do not splash Agrax Earthshade all over the miniature. It's very easy to going wild with those shades, and also very easy to just flip one of those pots all over the hobby table. It has happened to me so many times, so be careful when you're using those shades. Then I'm going to apply Nuln oil on all the metal parts on the miniature. Be careful so you don't get Nuln oil on the skin tones that you already painted. Working my way around the helmet with Nuln oil, slowly applying some Nuln oil here, being careful. And Nuln oil on the shield. Nuln oil on the dagger. And then I apply Nuln oil on the sword. And here I'm also using the Nuln oil to add shadows to the jupon, the grey jupon underneath his arms. I'm trying to find some parts on the miniatures where I could add more Nuln oil as darker shadows to bring the other colors more in the light. Basalt Grey is the color I'm going to use to start highlighting the jupon's grey parts. Slowly, small dots, just adding higher tones of grey on the jupon. You could change to a much smaller brush here, but I'm a bit too lazy sometimes when I paint, so I'm still using the medium brush here. Thousand Suns Blue is the color I'm going to use to start highlighting the blue parts on the French jupon here. I'm trying to be light and slow when I'm applying the blue color, slowly building up the highlights over the blue. This could be the time where you use a smaller, more detailed brush for the highlights, but I stick to my medium brush. Talarn Sand is the color I'm going to use to start highlighting the thread that is holding the jupon together. I'm now using a much smaller brush to get those small points on the thread. Sundry Dust is the last color I'm going to use to do the final highlights on that thread that's holding the jupon together. Leather Brown is the color I'm going back to the belt. When the Nuln oil has dried, I'm now applying the Leather Brown again on the belt and the dagger. Saddle Brown is the final color I'm going to use to highlight the leather parts, the belt around his waist and the dagger too. And some gunmetal on the belt too. Beige Brown is the color I'm going to use to start building up the highlights on the boots. I added some water to the brown and maybe I added a bit too much water, so it became almost like a wash. So in the end I maybe took a little bit more time on the boots than I should have, because I needed to correct my mistake adding too much water. Sundry Dust as the last color for the highlights on the boots. Beige Red is the color I'm going to use to start highlighting the skin color, starting with the face. But it's a bit hard to paint the face because he has a helmet on. Very claustrophobic it must be inside that armor. And final highlight is going to be basic skin tone on his face. Again, be very careful so you don't get color on the armor. And for a final touch on the miniatures armor, I'm going to use plate mail metal from Army Painter to add that extra little shine. It's not needed. You could just splash on the Nuln oil on the metal and then the armor could be done, but I'm adding this extra little touch with the highlight. I'm trying to be very careful when I'm applying this metal color on the miniature here. I don't want it to shine too much, but still at the same time I want it to shine. So trying to find a nice balance. And now it's time to paint the cross of Saint Michel on the jupon. For that I'm using off-white. Painting the cross could be a bit tricky, so be careful and just take your time. And now the miniature is finally done. Now the infantry is ready to join the Battle of Agincourt and hopefully not get pelted by arrows and bogged down in the mud. Anyways, I have to say the miniatures that are from Perryminiatures, this plastic set, the details are just lovely, and now you see the result when the miniature is painted. And hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and more videos coming up. I'm going to paint knights, nobles and more stuff from the 100 Years War, but that will be later on. So guys, take care and feel free to subscribe. Goodbye. Here's some pictures of the miniatures ready for the gaming table. Keep on painting and take care.